What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children is a fantasy adventure drama film that was directed by the infamous Tim Burton and is based on the 2011 novel of the same name written by Ransom Riggs. Okay, so this film kicks off when a young boy named Jake, played by Asa Butterfield, decides to head to Wales to look for a home he's long heard about that was run by a woman named Miss Peregrine. Well, after some trial and error, Jake is able to locate the home and find Miss Peregrine, and he soon finds out that there's some peculiar things happening here. Miss Peregrine informs Jake that her home is a safe haven for children with the peculiarity gene, meaning they have some skill or quality that normal everyday people would not readily accept, so they live under her guidance instead. Well, the primary conflict comes in when Samuel L. Jackson's character, Mr. Barron, begins hunting Miss Peregrine and her children because he wants to use them to achieve his own scientific goals. The rest of the film is spent primarily with Jake, however, as he attempts to bond with these peculiar children and eventually help lead them in an effort to fight off Mr. Barron and his hollow monsters. Look guys, I gotta be 100% honest here. This may upset some of you out there that are big fans of the books, but this has to be one of the worst movies I've seen this year. There are several reasons why that's the case, all of which I'll lay out for you in this video, but I want to start with our main protagonist this time. Asa Butterfield really struggled in this movie. This is actually the first time I've ever seen him in anything, and sadly this was not a good first impression for me. He's so incredibly stiff, and his character lacked any charisma or likability whatsoever. It wasn't like I was not rooting for him or anything, but if any film's main protagonist is as bad as this one's is, that film is likely going to suffer in regards to the overall quality. I thought the acting performances of everyone but Asa Butterfield were fine. I mean, I especially enjoy Eva Green as Miss Peregrine. She was eccentric and peculiar enough and compelling, and she was easily the best acted and most interesting character in this entire film. Purnell really shined in the role of Emma Bloom as well. Emma's peculiarity is that she can manipulate air, and she has to wear these lead shoes that hold her down because she's so light. And she's not just interesting as a character, but she's also really well acted as well. She's on screen a ton with Jake, and the two eventually form this weird connection, and she does most of the heavy lifting in those scenes. Samuel L. Jackson does a pretty good job as Mr. Barron, the main antagonist of this film, but to be honest, he's not really even in it all that much. He obviously shows up near the tail end of the film for the climax and final showdown, but for the first two acts, he's mostly just nowhere to be seen or even referenced for that matter. He gives a solid performance, but I think it was more the character that I didn't love rather than the actor. The problem for me was mostly that he was just a little bit too silly at times, and this kind of ruined the drama and tension of several scenes for me. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, Judi Dench is in this movie too, but it's the biggest waste of a great actress ever. She's in it for like 5 minutes and does basically nothing at all, so I'm not even entirely sure why she's in the movie. I got excited when I saw her name in the opening credits, and then disappointment. I will say though that the rest of the peculiar children did a really nice job in their respective role. They were awesome. But let's transition to the story itself. There are some really nice things about this story and some not so nice things. I do however think that the problem seems to lie at times in the adaptation process and not within the source material itself. Act 1, so the first like 30 minutes or so of this film, starts very bumpy. The first act attempts to make you invest further in Jake's character and empathize with his situation by showing you his work and social life and family background and so forth, but none of these things are explored in enough depth that really allow you to get a chance to understand what makes Jake an individual. He doesn't have a clear identity or personality or anything like that. He's just there, and any attempt to add layers to him as a protagonist and to the story itself fails. Act 2 is probably the best stretch of this film's 2-hour runtime, because once Jake actually gets to the house and doesn't have to hold the foundation of the film by himself any longer, things dramatically improve. Once you get introduced to the peculiar children and their unique personalities, things do get better. But then Act 3 comes and things just get way too silly and ridiculous. The climax especially, which contains the battle that you've probably seen in the trailers, is so ridiculous and anticlimactic that I found myself extremely disappointed. Because I thought to myself, well, the movie hasn't been that great, but it's always nice to see some cool CGI monsters fight each other. But nope, somehow this movie found a way to make that not fun too. There are two elements that I would say are relatively strong about this film, and that's the cinematography and the dialogue. The cinematography does a really nice job adding some drama to this story that's overall pretty wacky. Keep in mind though that this is a Tim Burton movie, and things are supposed to get a little wacky. He did do Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands and Mars Attacks and so forth, so you get the idea. I thought all the CGI looked fine and the hollows looked scary and all, so yeah, visually this movie does check out. Even though I didn't really like any interaction that involved Jake's character really, that's more so due to how the lines were delivered than how they were written. I really enjoyed the interactions between the other characters, and I thought the dialogue was very well written in this film. Each of the characters was peculiar enough to contribute something different to the drama, and each one had their impact on the story in their own peculiar way. Miss Peregrine especially had some very nicely written dialogue that added to the unusual nature of her character. But overall, I do have to say that I was very disappointed with Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I did think it had some nice acting performances, well-written dialogue, and strong cinematography. Sadly, I also felt that the main protagonist was extremely underwhelming. Act 1 is poorly paced and assembled, Act 3 and the climax is too silly, and none of our characters are near developed enough. I'm going to give this film a 4.5 out of 10, and definitely recommend you pass on this one in theaters unless you love the books and feel like you have to see this film. So did you guys see Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children yet? What did you think of it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if not, let me know whether you'd be interested in watching this film or not. And as always, if you like this video, click that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for much more content like this. That's all for now though. This is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next review.